Welcome back to Shabby Shack Studio, friends, as we create a fabric storage box together. I have released these kits in my store. However, the instructions with you today mean that you can create these with any fabric you have at home. I have added lots of little notes for you so that you can follow along slower, you can pause, or you can create with me. So this is the interfacing. As you can see, these come pre-cut in the kits, or you can do this yourself. These boxes, all the fabrics are 30 centimeters square, and the corner cutouts are only at the bottom, as you can see, and they're 7 centimeters square. So you would cut that out of your lining fabric, your feature fabric, and your interfacing. You would sew that on, and then you would pin the sides and the base first, allowing for a 1 centimeter seam allowance, as you can see. I have then moved on to my sewing machine, my beautiful Singer here, and I'm stitching the side seam and the bottom seam on both the feature fabric and the coordinate. Now I'm making sure that I am turning that fabric and sewing back or over sewing the edges just to make them a little bit stronger while you're actually working and putting this together. And you can see me there with my ruler checking my 1 centimeter allowance. Now you can of course mark this with a pencil, or you can just go by eye if you're a confident sewer. I've then simply just gone over to my ironing board. I've got a nice steamy iron here, and I'm just pressing the side seams and the bottom seam flat. Look, don't worry if you're pressing that like I have and I've made a crease. I'll fix that in a minute. It's just when I'm moving on to sew my corners and to make them nice and crisp, it just makes it a little bit easier. So it's up to you. You can miss this step if you prefer. Now you have the option to, of course, overlock the edges, but you're not going to see them. You could also use some pinking shears just to soften the edge and stop them from coming apart. But my textiles are really quite strong and hard wearing, so I don't have that issue, and you shouldn't have that issue if you're working with a crafting cotton either. The fabric you're looking at is my wildflowers in summer, and my kits do include my textiles. I can either coordinate the ones I feel suit and look best together, or you have the option to make yours completely original to you and choose your fabric combinations. Okay, so now that those edges are pressed, I'm just simply pinching the corners and laying them flat and pinning them, allowing for that 1 centimeter allowance. Obviously, when I'm checking those allowances, it's because when we get to this step, if my side seams weren't even, then my corners wouldn't pinch together quite so nicely. This is up to you how fussy you want to be, but honestly, just taking a little bit of care at that step makes it all so much easier later. And then the pins do act as a nice guide when you go over to the sewing machine and you start stitching. Now I do repeat this process for both the coordinate fabric that sits inside and the feature fabric that sits outside as well. And then we move over to the sewing machine and we simply stitch those corners before we move back to the work table and put our box together. So you can see the coordinate, I've flipped that around so that the pretty side's on the outside and the coordinate remains exactly how I've been stitching it. And then I just turn the top seam and press and pin that how you're happy. So you may decide you want a deeper seam or not. And then go over to your sewing machine and use your presser foot as a guide so that you've got a nice edge that is close to the top there. So you can see now the storage box at full height, and it actually is so roomy. Or you can fold it over and show your coordinate top. This is lovely for a pot plant and things like that, or even, as you can see, with lemons and limes in it, and that actually has a dozen in there easy. So you can see it's certainly not overflowing even with a folded collar. Now, did someone say handles? So for me, I thought, you know what, they're missing something. It needs a sweet little handle here. You do in the kits have the option of a fabric or a leather handle. However, this is up to you. So I'm just sharing how I cut the leather handles. Mine are 14 centimeters long and they're 3 centimeters wide. But again, If this is something you wanted to change, you could always create your own. So if you're making this with things that you have at home, that's up to you. Now you can use a combination of a sharp blade. You can see I've got a cutting pad below, making sure I don't damage my table, or a combination of your cutting blade and your scissors, whatever you're most confident with. And then I've cut them square but I did intend to make the ends a little bit pointy, like you can see at the top there. So I literally have just taken 1 centimetre down the length, found the center, which is obviously 1.5 centimeters from that 3 that was there, and then I'm just using my ruler here and trimming that. Again, you could use scissors, whichever you're happiest with, and then I repeat that on both sides, because those handles, as you can see, 2 sweet little handles, are going to be attached on either side of my box. So there you go. How sweet is that? When you fold that collar back up again, if you're wanting the full length and the handles are hidden inside, as you can see, my kit comes with full instructions as well. But however you made yours, I hope you had fun today. Thank you.